This is Joanne Allenbaugh, Director of Communications for Farms.com, and with me today is John Weber, who is the newly elected president of the Iowa Pork Producers. John, tell us a little bit about your operation and where you live.
Joan, I live at Dysart, Iowa. We're about 25 miles south of Waterloo, Iowa, and we have a swine finishing operation. So we market about 10,000 hogs a year.
Okay. Well, it's been challenging times for producers. What do you see as the main things that were talked about at your meeting, the Iowa Pork Producers meeting recently?
Well, you're right about that. We've come through at least a minimum of 18 months of very difficult times for Iowa pork producers from an economic standpoint, mainly influenced by the H1N1 outbreak last April. So I think the focus of the delegates as they came in this year is to look toward more profitability, returning to profitability in 2010, and we've got some things falling in place where I think that's going to happen. So we do have a few issues that were brought to us that we dealt with at the annual meeting, but again, I think the overall focus here is just returning to profitability.
When you talked with producers here, were a lot of them, have they reduced their sow herd? Have they cut back on their pigs temporarily and planning to get back in when prices do get better?
There are some that have reduced size of operation. Here in the Midwest, the reduction has been relatively small. If you look at the last pig crop report numbers, the biggest reductions came in the Carolinas, Arkansas, Oklahoma, kind of in the southern tier of states. Not so much here in the Midwest, but it did give us, I think, around a 2.4% decline in sow numbers, according to the last report. So that also sheds a little bit more optimism as we run into 2010.
And of course, we're still counting on having good exports, too, as we roll through this next year.
The National Pork Board gave us a report on the export situation, and I think we can be very fortunate there. We've held together our domestic demand relatively well throughout this whole episode in 2009, and again, it'll be one of our goals to improve domestic demand in 2010. What surprised us is how well the export market held together despite the H1N1 episode. A lot of those markets have come back. They've come back very strong, and I think 2009 will be the second highest export year ever for U.S. pork. So despite the H1N1 episode, we were very pleased to hear that news and very optimistic about what might be lying out there in 2010.
Well, let's hope it continues to improve for pork producers. John, we wish you all the best as your tenure as the new Iowa Pork Producers President.
Thank you, Joan.